Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rocky Top Insider Diamond Pass podcast here on this Wednesday, April 16th edition, just a couple of days away from Easter. I'm your host, Jack Foster, joined alongside Ryan Schumpert, as always, talking Tennessee baseball here on this Wednesday. A little later in the week, not quite a Sunday or Monday podcast, recapping a series and a series last weekend that Tennessee won on the road at then number 6 Ole Miss. So not going to get into the weeds of each game or anything like that. More of a big picture discussion today. Now that we are halfway through SEC play, Tennessee 11-4 halfway through league play. But before we get into it, Ryan, how you doing on this great Wednesday?
I'm doing well. Battling the allergies big time, but doing well nonetheless, and excited to talk about, like you said, the halfway point in SEC play. And Tennessee's schedule hasn't been super hard to this point, but probably their best series win of the season last weekend, and one more week. This weekend, Tennessee should be able to take care of business against Kentucky at home. But after that, those last 4 weeks are going to be very, very challenging for Tennessee. So should be a fun back half of the conference slate.
Yeah, 3 of 4 for sure. Of course, the road trips to LSU and Arkansas stick out. Auburn now top 10 team. Vandy slipping a bit, but it's still Vandy. It's always going to be a tough series. This weekend, definitely the easiest series remaining on Tennessee's schedule. You mentioned the Ole Miss series win. It had to go to a rubber game. Tennessee wins a close one on Friday behind the best performance of Liam Doyle's career, I feel safe to say. Definitely in a Tennessee uniform and, obviously of his career, because this is his best year yet as a college baseball player. But 8 1/3 for Liam Doyle was just unbelievable. Kept the pitch count low throughout, but still was able to rack up the strikeouts. 14 on the night. That ties a career high. 8 1/3 was his career long outing. Liam Doyle was phenomenal. But Tennessee follows that up with an 8-5 loss. Some sloppy defense, poor situational hitting. Marcus Phillips, another shaky start. We'll get into that. But Tennessee was able to rebound and take a high-scoring series finale, 10-8, to win the pivotal rubber match. A huge two-run homer, two-run homer from Reese Chapman in the top of the ninth to send the balls over the edge. And, it was just, I don't think either team obviously played their best. Tennessee certainly didn't on Sunday. It was a classic Sunday college baseball game. Tennessee was just able to be on the right side of it, which is important on the road. So just like you said, probably on paper, it's the best series win. I don't know if Tennessee played the best, they have all season in a given weekend, but definitely it was it was good that Tennessee was able to get this done, because I think we all expected them to, and it was needed after what happened against Texas A&M.
Yeah, for sure. I picked them to win the series, but it did feel about like a toss-up when you consider how well Ole Miss is playing, and probably I'd say the surprise team in the SEC to this point in the season, with them or Auburn probably.
They were picked to finish 15th in the league. So
okay, yeah, I knew it was down at the bottom. I didn't know just how low. So, and yeah, Doyle, I mean, he set the tone for the weekend, and yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with just this ability to keep the pitch count down and get that deep into the game. I mean, he did throw 110 pitches or something like that, so it wasn't like it was absurd, but still, to pitch into the ninth inning, to get an out in the ninth inning at any point from a starter is pretty remarkable in this day and age. So I think 16 pitches was the most pitches he threw in a single inning. Gives up 3 hits, gives up the 1-2-run homer, really the only blemish to a Austin Foley, who just killed Tennessee all weekend at the plate. Tennessee could not get him out, it felt like. But just a dominant outing for Doyle, and I think he's been really good the last 2 weeks. A little bit shorter against A&M, but obviously didn't allow a hit as Tennessee threw a combined no-hitter. And for a Tennessee pitching staff that has been a little bit shaky, and I'm sure we'll get more into that, they need their top-end guys to be really, really good, and Doyle is living up to his end of the bargain here as of late after a couple rocky SEC starts.
Yeah, that's, we don't have to touch on Liam Doyle a ton, as he's kind of, the one of the biggest certainties of Tennessee right now, just the fact that he's going to dominate on Fridays. But you're right, those 2 road trips to Alabama and South Carolina didn't really go his way. And while he was resilient both those outings, he saved the bullpen in Tuscaloosa. It just wasn't as dominant as we'd seen Liam Doyle early on, and even against Florida and Oklahoma State, the 2 teams that he had faced that were real competition prior to those road trips. But now, I mean, what he's done against Texas A&M, no hitting them in 6 innings, and then of course the best outing of his season last week. It's back to, okay, Liam Doyle's definitely among or the best pitcher in the SEC, and Tennessee has that guy every Friday night. They have the edge as long as he's on the mound in a series opener.
Yeah, Tennessee's never going to be at a deficit, I guess, in the pitching matchup on Friday night. And I don't know, maybe a couple times it'll be a push or something, or you'll go in saying, all right, this is two of the best guys in the SEC. Let's see who can outduel. But almost every single time you're going to feel good about where Tennessee is entering the weekend. I think that's going to be huge going forward. Just, I mean, as it always is, but especially when you look at the 2 road trips that Tennessee has, to LSU and to Arkansas. There's going to be a very difficult series, and to win on Friday night, or it'll be Thursday night in the case of the Arkansas series, to win game 1 of the series is always so important. But I feel like it's all the more important when you're on the road playing great teams, because, trying to bounce back and winning the next 2 is a really tall task, really, no matter what the series is or where it is, but it's just amplified when you're playing a top 10, a top 5, a top 3 team on the road.
And it's evident with this offense now, and it especially was as Ole Miss reliever, forget his first name, but Morris, the Ole Miss reliever, who shut down Tennessee there after the starter had left the game for the Rebels. So Tennessee couldn't touch that reliever Morris. So it's more evident this year, is what I'm saying, that I felt like last year you could just say, hey, Tennessee will be fine. Like, oh, you fall down 1 or 2 runs, 6 inning, Tennessee will find a way. Not so sure this year, right? The offense just isn't as good. It's not going to have that I don't think it's going to just be that clutch in late game scenarios. It certainly was Sunday with Chapman, but it's not going to happen every time. This offense just isn't as good. It's still good offense, don't get me wrong, but it's more important for Tennessee to have a guy like Liam Doyle this year, where it wasn't last year or in 22, of course. So that, to me, it makes it all the more important. And it also amplifies the significance of his outing Friday, because every single pitch, every single inning, Ole Miss could have tied or taken the lead, it felt like everything was high leverage for Doyle in the back half of his outing for sure. So to go out there inning after inning and shove like he did was unbelievable.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point about, like, we were talking about the A&M, his start against A&M, which was really good, but little of that really felt high leverage. Tennessee had a lead pretty early in the game, pushed it out, and certainly by the end of his outing, Tennessee had all but won the game. And that was far, far from the case. I mean, he exits the game after giving up a base runner in the 9th inning, and the winning run is now at the plate. He is responsible for the tying run on base, and for him to continue to be that sharp and really just to make one mistake in the entire outing was just super impressive.
Moving forward, talking Tennessee's pitching staff, let's keep it with the starters discussion right now and move to Marcus Phillips, who, as I mentioned atop this thing, had another shaky outing on Saturday. Last week or 2 weekends ago now against Texas A&M, it was just a home run ball that really killed Phillips. It wasn't terrible, but I believe 4 2/3 is what he finished at this time around. Only 3 1/3, his shortest outing of the season, 75 pitches. And while it wasn't just home run after home run, it was 4 hits, 4 earned runs against Phillips, and the
3
command
walks.
wasn't great. 3 walks, yes. And that was the worry for Phillips going into the season. I think he's been doing really well in that department. It wasn't good Saturday. So what is your take on Marcus Phillips right now, and just where he's at after 2 subpar outings?
Yeah, I think you make a good point about his start before, which I think was probably better than the numbers really indicated. And part of it not feeling so bad was because of the way the damage was done on the solo home runs before the big 2-run home run. And there just weren't a lot of runners on base. And I think we've seen this throughout the season. He just hasn't been pitching a ton with runners on base, but he's so slow to the plate that he just gives up a ton of stolen bases. And Ole Miss is a really aggressive team on the base path. It was clear that was their strategy. When they got guys on base, they were going to run. So it felt a lot worse. I would say past felt. It was a lot worse because there were constantly guys on base. He couldn't do anything to hold them. And it just magnified the issues that he was already having, were magnified by Ole Miss's success on the base pass. I think they stole 7 bases when he was in. I think they had 7 base runners. He gave up 7 base runners and 7 stolen bases. Did have
they
one
had
caught stealing.
right. I think they had 5 in the first inning.
Yeah.
4 or 5 in the first inning. They ended with 8. I remember that was
Yeah.
the total, but not all came against Phillips. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
the last one was allowing a Phillips run to score when they stole home on the Arvidson pitch and ended up
yeah.
being in the dirt.
Yeah.
But to that point, Marcus Phillips pitches into the 4th inning. That 8th stolen base happened in the 4th inning on kind of a wonky play, and they didn't steal any more bases after that. And some of that,
Mhm.
Ole Miss had a lead, so they're not being as aggressive on the base pass. But it was clear that was the plan.
Yeah.
And so I think you combine that with the way things went wrong, you see, like, all right, well, this could be a problem. Look, Tony Vitello said he voted confidence for Marcus Phillips, talking to the media on Tuesday after the Bellarmine game, said he's our guy. He'll continue to start on Saturday. I think he should. I think to pull him now from that starting rotation would be a bit of an overreaction. I don't know if I'd go as far as say irresponsible, but an overreaction. But to me, it's definitely in the monitoring stage of, all right, if he has another bad outing or two, maybe you try him in the bullpen. But at this point, it's 2 bad outings. Again, I didn't think the A&M outing was really that bad. Like, just on its own, it wasn't a huge cause for concern. So we'll see how he can bounce back this weekend against Kentucky.
Yeah. And well, what team runs a lot? What team likes to steal some bases?
Yeah.
Kentucky. So I would imagine you see that again this weekend. I don't know if it'll quite get to 7 on Phillips, but Kentucky's definitely going to try. So we'll see if that's more of a concerted effort from Phillips and just Tennessee this weekend. But yeah, I agree. It's not smart to take him out of the rotation now. It's not been that bad to where it has to happen. It's not like he's getting just hit around like Chase Burns was 2 years ago either. Like it's still not spiraling on him, in my opinion. But it's in the monitoring stage, especially with AJ Russell back now in the fold on the weekends. And we'll get to him after talking about Tegan Kuhns, who pitched Sunday's game, started yet again in an SEC outing. Thought he was better, dare I say, like much better than the A&M start, because against A&M, the command was off, and obviously the 3-run homer early. But Kuhns this time around was solid. He did give up 1 earned run, 3 total, but just 1 was earned as bad defense plagued his outing, made it shorter than what it should have been. 2 2/3, 59 pitches, exited in a 2-on, 1-out jam or 2-on, no-out jam. I can't quite remember, but it was a jam because of bad defense. So a little bit of misfortune for Kuhns here in this road start at Ole Miss. But really, Ryan, we're talking big picture more today. I thought it was good to see Kuhns bounce back at least a little bit from that A&M outing. And then Tony Vitello said Tuesday night that, Kuhns has earned a role on the weekends. And I believe the quote was, it's probably in a starting fashion. So still feels like definitely this weekend. And until it's not, that Kuhns is going to be a part of this weekend rotation.
Yes. And again, I thought he was good on Sunday. I mean, I wouldn't say great or anything like that,
Right.
but to me, it felt way more just about the defense behind him was really, really bad and put him in a bad spot. He worked out of one of those jams. I guess it was in the first inning when a Dean Curley throwing error put Luke Hill on second, I think is who it was, with 1 out, and he struck out the next 2 guys. So I thought it was a good outing. It was a good bounce back for him. It was a really good bounce back for Brayden Krenzel, who came in behind him as he
Yes.
has. I definitely felt like left the weekend feeling better about that freshman duo for Tennessee on Sundays.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head with Krenzel there. Like, both of those guys were bad against Texas A&M. Kuhns more a command issue, but Krenzel just got rocked. And this time around against Ole Miss, Krenzel shut him down. It was back to what we had seen at Alabama, at South Carolina. The strikeouts continued to be really impressive from Krenzel. He does well in high leverage spots, high leverage situations. Only 35 pitches, but it felt like he really took control of the game there in the middle part. And yeah, I think there's really no worry with Krenzel being a reliable SEC bullpen arm still for Tennessee, certainly behind Snead and Loy and maybe Franklin, who's building. We'll touch on him in a minute, but Krenzel's a guy that's going to pitch multiple innings every weekend for Tennessee in SEC play.
Agree for sure. And look, there's just very few truly reliable arms, it feels like, for Tennessee in the bullpen. So,
Yeah, probably just name the only 4, right?
yeah, and even then, reliable is an accurate word, but it's not overly reliable either, I would say.
I think Franklin has earned it now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. He's had 2 good outings after a number of bad outings. It wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me if Tanner Franklin had a bad outing this weekend. It wouldn't surprise me if anyone out of the bullpen had a bad outing this weekend, to be honest.
Well, yeah, okay, fine. I mean, if Nate Snead just falls apart in a given outing, that's always going to surprise you.
I trust him to not do that. And falls apart, you're probably right. But even he has been a little bit shaky. Loy's been a little bit shaky.
All right, so just where are you at on this bullpen as a whole? Because you feels some pessimism coming from you right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate. Like, not that they can't get to the point where they're good, but it's all holding breath to me right now when it gets to the bullpen for Tennessee. Snead, I thought, did a good job of gritting through things on Sunday, but certainly he was not very crisp. Loy hasn't been crisp in multiple outings in a row. So I still believe in those guys long term. I still think those guys are reliable pieces for Tennessee's bullpen. But when it just comes from like a week to week standpoint, it all feels very shaky for me in Tennessee's bullpen, and that's why I think getting AJ Russell back is so important, because being able to have somebody that can get 6 to 9 more outs on any given weekend, I think, is highly important right now for a Tennessee pitching staff kind of searching for outs out of its pen.
Last 3 appearances for Tanner Franklin, 8 2/3 total innings. He's given up 5 runs, struck out 12. So, I can't. Sorry, go ahead.
It's probably a little bit better than I'm making it out to be, because he had the one outing against A&M, and
yep,
I think
and that's
second,
the one.
Yeah,
that's the one he gave up 3 runs in. Yeah,
he gave up 3 runs, but they kind of just left him in there longer. He was really crisp for 2 innings, and then
exactly.
They're just kind of trying to get to the finish line. What was the third outing? The one before that?
South Carolina was solid on. I believe it was the Friday game.
Okay.
Gave up 4 hits, 2 runs, 3
Gotcha.
strikeouts. Tennessee won the game, of course, and got 2 outs in Alabama to end both games, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So, finished off both of those 2 games and was awesome against ETSU. That was the first true bounce back for him after he was terrible against Florida. So,
yep.
When you take into account, ETSU, good lineup, was great in 1 2/3, and then the 2 big Bama outs to finish games. Well, one was big, one was kind of big, and then these last 3 that I just went through. I think he's earned a spot amongst those top 4. He's not in the Snead tier, of course. He's kind of in a tier by himself, Snead is, but I feel confident he's on the Krenzel level for sure, of a guy who can get you 6 to 9 outs in a given SEC weekend.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. I think I was probably being a little hard on him, and I didn't catch that South Carolina game on Friday because of basketball. So he's definitely throwing it better, and is definitely in that second group out of the bullpen from a trust standpoint, and he's definitely going to get opportunities every weekend, and as he should.
Let's move forward to AJ Russell, who did not pitch this midweek. He had started the previous 2, but did not throw last night. But, so what does that mean? Probably that he's going to pitch this weekend against Kentucky, right? Tony Vitello said that is, going to be part of the plan, but not going to be in a starting role. As we mentioned, Tony said Kuhns has earned a role on the weekends, probably as a starter. He backed Marcus Phillips. Of course, Liam Doyle is starting, so that means AJ Russell's going to come out of the bullpen if he does throw this weekend, which seems to be the case, Ryan. He said, what do you say? An inning is probably the goal for Russell first in relief out of the bullpen against an SEC opponent. Maybe it's 2, but if we see Russell this weekend, it'll be, probably 3 to 6 outs he's getting. And what do you think it would look like as far as the situation? I think it would be a clean inning. That's kind of the tone I got from Tony. But what do you see shaking out for Russell here against Kentucky?
Yeah, I think probably 2 innings, and I can't remember if Tony said it exactly. I think he roughly did say, it'll probably be a clean inning essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and he kind of talked about, I think he even said, and he said it generally about Tennessee's pitchers, not about AJ specifically, but it was in a question about AJ where he was kind of like, it's probably a little, maybe a little bit of a benefit to get to warm up in the outfield before the game, but he's a big boy. He can get outs in multiple ways for us. So yeah, I think that's probably what it looks like. I would think it would maybe be like I would probably guess Saturday because of the way the Krenzel stack, and he's been good in long relief behind Kuhns. I think it would probably be Saturday.
Yep.
Phillips goes to some point. Somebody comes in and, we'll say Andrew Behnke comes in and whatever tries to get Tennessee out of any given inning, get the last out or two of whatever innings Phillips in, and then you hand it to Russell in essentially the middle of the game and see if he can give you 2 innings is kind of what my guess of what that would look like would be.
Yeah. Here's what he said. For now, I think it's a hybrid. It'll be relief, but I don't have any intention of bringing him in right in the middle of an inning to start the whole deal. So you definitely a clean inning. So probably starting an inning, and every pitcher does that, and then he went on to talk about what you said, playing catch in the outfield. So yeah, clean inning for Russell. I think Saturday makes the most sense given the fact that you expect Doyle to pitch most of the Friday game, and then when he exits, if things go to plan, it'll be a late game spot for Snead or Loy. The Krenzel stack has worked great on Sundays for the most part, so Saturday makes the most sense. That's the day that's I think Tennessee pieces together more than the others as of right now, and that's the day as of late that Franklin has probably seen more time, just because of how good Doyle has been on Fridays and how long he's gone. So yeah, this is obviously a good thing for Tennessee. Scale of 1 to 10, Ryan, you expressed pessimism about this bullpen as a whole. How badly does Tennessee need AJ Russell right now? Like scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really badly, 1 being like they would be fine without him.
On the we're scaling the scales on the scale of like Tennessee making it to the College World Series and making a run, like a 10. They need him badly.
Okay.
They need
That's the scale I want because that's Tennessee's goal this season, right? Anything less than that's a bust.
Yeah, so I think they need him really badly, especially if he can continue to be built up. And I was a little bit surprised last night when Tony said it'll be in the bullpen to start, but I kind of think the more I've thought about it, I'm like, yeah, it kind of does make sense. Like, I don't think if you were going to start AJ Russell, I still think there's a good chance that in the end it ends up being AJ Russell's role as a starter. Mm-hmm. I don't know who you would put him in for right now, whether that be Kuhns on Sunday or Phillips on Saturday.
Well, it would have been Kuhns, right? But now it's a little TBD because if Phillips keeps having outings, then you got a decision to make.
Exactly. And so since already right now Russell's not built up enough to be the throw starter innings, and he is a very selfless guy who just wants to pitch, he's not dramatic about his role or something. I think it makes sense to just use him in the bullpen, get him built up, and then if Phillips or Kuhns or one of those guys is struggling, or you feel like later on 2 or 3 weeks down the road, all right, Russell can help. This team is best with Russell as a starter. I think you have a better sample size or a better feel of where he would need to go. What day would make the most sense? Whereas right now, if you were to throw him as an opener on Sunday, which had kind of been my thought as to what that would look like, he could do that. And then 3 weeks later, feel like, all right, well, Kuhns is a better option as a weekend starter than Phillips. And then you're rocking the boat again. I think this allows Tennessee to continue to have stability, continue to get a larger and larger sample size, and kind of feel for if you are going to move him to the starting rotation, where he is needed the most. And given his selflessness and just his makeup, where he's not going to be a problem, he's not going to complain about what his role is. I don't think there's really any downside to that.
Rounding out this pitching discussion here real quick, shout out Andrew Behnke, who has had back-to-back good midweek performances. A couple of scoreless innings each of the past 2 weeks. And, I think of all these midweek guys, Breed Love has been really good all season, but he hasn't quite gotten opportunities in SEC play. But Tennessee needs another lefty out of the bullpen on weekends. And Arvidson, while he was good against A&M a couple weeks ago, was not that great against Ole Miss. I just don't think you can trust him a lot right now. So it would be nice for Tennessee to have another lefty outside of Loy to get you some outs here on the weekends, and maybe that could be Behnke. That was the expectation before the season, but the injury and just the how rocky he was coming back from that. Now back to back solid performances in the midweek. Maybe that can result in some opportunities down the line against SEC competition. And then I mentioned Arvidson. So do you agree that Tennessee needs probably one of these guys, whether it's Arvidson or Behnke, to be a little bit more trustworthy because of the lack of lefties in this bullpen?
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily need them to be a guy that you're asking to get 6 outs on a weekend, but I thought what Tony said last night is kind of exactly what I was thinking of, like, when I asked him specifically about Behnke and, like, how close he is to being a guy they could rely on in the weekend. He kind of said, like, what his role was last season, coming in a pinch or in a lefty specialist, getting an out, getting a couple outs. Like, I think Tennessee needs that. I think they need another lefty arm that can come in situationally as a bridge guy. I don't think if all goes according to plan with Russell, I don't think they necessarily need a lefty that's going to come in there and need to pitch multiple innings in a weekend. It would be great if someone emerged and did that, but I don't think that's entirely realistic. So,
Yeah. Well,
just to have somebody that can pitch some and
yeah.
get a couple outs, I do think is necessary just from a matchup standpoint. And I don't think that's like an unrealistic ask or something that can't happen for one of those guys this season.
Yeah, it feels like Arvidson is, he's a guy who's built to go longer in games, certainly more than Behnke. And I think he's a guy that Tennessee will, have to turn to maybe in Hoover or at some point down the road when they're just kind of out of arms a little bit. So I don't think he's just, he's going to have to get some key outs at some point. And whether he rises to the occasion is to be determined. But, he's definitely not out of the fold, and he's super talented, but it just hasn't been consistent enough for Tennessee to probably trust him in any sort of big moments. I think if Tennessee gets a lead in a given game in the SEC, you'll see him come in. So he's probably a back end of the bullpen guy on the weekends as of right now.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with that. And look, I mean, it just kind of goes back to I don't know if the point's the right word, but my pessimism about where the bullpen stands at the moment. It's just like anybody that can help wherever is
Right.
big. And
sure.
the starting pitching is good, even with Phillips having some struggles. Doyle has been so good, and then you have the option of Russell potentially being a starter. I think the starting pitching is going to be good. So just I think that mitigate. It's not like last year, and granted, Tennessee kind of pitched things backwards last year. But last year, Tennessee needed the bullpen to be really good and get a ton of outs every weekend. It's not going to be that as dramatic this year. So while Tennessee's bullpen almost certainly won't get to the point of where it was last year, or at least probably won't get to the point to where it was last year, Tennessee also isn't going to need it to get quite to that level either.
No doubt about it. Let's shift gears and talk about Tennessee's offense and just these players real quick. Let's start with Dean Curley, who had a frustrating first couple of days in Ole Miss. As a result, moves down to the cleanup spot in Sunday's game. Does get an RBI knock in that game. Only one hit, though, on the weekend. Follows it up, though, with a big-time performance on Tuesday with 3 hits on his birthday in week win over – who the heck did they play last night?
Bellarmine.
Bellarmine, yes, that's right. The Bellarmine.
Knights.
That's right. So big night for Dean Curley against Bellarmine. Probably building some confidence ahead of this weekend. Great to see you on his birthday, but back in the leadoff spot too, I should mention, on Tuesday. Yeah. So, I think Curley moving to the cleanup spot was probably just a one-game thing, given his struggles in the first 2 days. Just had to mix things up really because of how it had gone. But where are you at with Dean Curley and the top of this order now that that has seen Fischer move up to the 3-hole on Sunday, and he stayed there actually on Tuesday. Thought that was interesting that Inslee just moved to the cleanup spot rather than the 3-hole. Tennessee actually going back-to-back lefties 2-3, which you hardly ever see. So where are you at with really Curley and just the top of this order as a whole?
Yeah, look, Curley has struggled, but I don't know. I continue to trust him, so I don't have a problem keeping him in the leadoff spot. I also don't have a problem if they're going to move him. I see the argument to moving him. He has struggled, so I don't think it's like a stupid move. But I see it either way. I think the thing that becomes interesting and maybe does make some sense to me with the Inslee or Curley in the cleanup and Fischer in the 3-hole is Tennessee is a very clear top 6 hitters right now, and 4 of them are left-handed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if they're going to hit one in the leadoff spot, I almost think it makes sense to go leadoff 2-3 lefty, righty, lefty, instead of they've tinkered some stuff around. But if you're going to hit your best 6 hitters 1 through 6, and you're going to go righty, lefty, you're going to end up having 3 lefties back to back to back, and Fischer, Bargo, and Chapman in 4, 5, and 6. So I think that part makes sense. It would make some sense to just put a lefty in the leadoff spot to give you a little bit more balance. It doesn't seem like they have a guy they necessarily want to go there. I mean, Keelan's been in a 2-hole every single time he's played. I think he's more than capable of hitting in the leadoff spot. You probably wouldn't want it right now, given how
because he can't run.
Because he can't run. Yeah, exactly. Because he can't run. But I'm almost curious I'm curious to see if they try some stuff out or adventure some stuff out at the leadoff spot. Whether that would be Keelan when maybe he does get a little bit healthier and can run a little bit more, or do they try a Bargo there? Or I don't know. That part I'm curious about, because I think that dictates what you're going to do 2 to 6 so much, because they're so heavy on left-handed bats that are trustworthy or their best bats, probably in more simple terms.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the rule of thumb is the best player leads off, like you just want your best guy in the leadoff spot. That's kind of why Dean Curley led off, right? It's not like he's a prototypical leadoff hitter. That was just the thought. He's wearing number 1. He's our best player. No leadoff spot. Gavin Keelan's your best player. So when he can run, I just have Gavin Keelan lead off. I mean, he feels like the best hitter, and there's really no discussion right now for Tennessee. I mean, is there any pushback on that at all?
The only pushback would be Andrew Fischer, who's not going to hit leadoff spot.
Yeah, right. His power is the best, no doubt,
but his eye's so good too. I mean, his his average isn't the best, but he gets on base still at an incredibly high rate. It's 1A, 1B with those 2 guys.
Okay, that's fair. And pitchers are definitely afraid of him as well. So nothing
as they should be.
Nothing more Andrew Fischer loves than a 3-2 pitch right down the middle. So yeah. I just think Gavin Keelan will end up leading off if he ever is able to be back to 100% with his mobility. It just doesn't feel like Tennessee's maximizing things with Curley in leadoff spot to me right now. I thought the move was good to move him out of it on Sunday. I don't think it's that big of a deal though. Honestly, like when it comes right down to it, I can't get that invested into this debate because I don't think it matters all that much. Like,
yeah,
that's just how I view things. And like even last year with Christian Moore, it's like, oh, you got to move down so he has more RBI opportunities. I'm like, I think they're doing fine. Like, it's whatever, man. Yeah. Trialing is more than capable. It's different discussion this year because the hitters aren't as strong, of course. But honestly, I don't really care when it comes down to it. But it does feel like Gavin Keelan is Tennessee's best player, and if the format is going to be, hey, best player leads off, then Keelan should be leading off as long as he can run. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And one thing I'll just add, I think it's kind of the funny irony to that is there's been so much talk around this team about some struggles with runners in scoring position. Struggles getting people in, which to me is like now I'm going to get off on a tangent, but the timeless debate of like 95% of baseball team fans always are mad about their teams hitting with runners in scoring position. If you don't get runners in with runners in scoring position, it's maddening. And Tennessee is coming off a year where they were just so good at the plate that they got runners in it. They were in that 5% of they just got runners in all the time because they were so astronomically good offensively. To where I'm not even sure. Like, I'm not saying that those concerns or that criticism is not justified because it has been an issue at times. But I don't know if it's really out of the realm of what the vast majority of baseball teams struggle with of getting runners in scoring. I don't know if it's on the pendulum of struggling to get runners in. I don't know if it's really that bad. But I will say to that criticism or to people being upset about that and then also wanting to move Dean Curley down, well, then you're going to have Gavin Keelan and Andrew Fischer, who are two of your best hitters, and then Hunter Inslee, who's arguably the clutchest hitter on the team, hitting less with runners on base if they're hitting in the leadoff spot. So then just in theory, that problem would become worse by making that move. And again, to your point, it doesn't always work out that way. As Tony Vitello likes to say, it all becomes a scrambled mess after the first inning anyway. But I do find a little bit of irony in that point just in general.
What magnified it with Curley was the bases loaded opportunity on Saturday's game. That was the tipping point because he hadn't done anything all weekend long. And then it's this huge moment for Tennessee to take the lead after a frustrating game, and your number one, right, is up. Like this is the Christian Moore's going to win us the game spot. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think that was the root of all this frustration. And then when you throw in the fact that he has been really erratic in the field, that causes people to get frustrated even more, I think. And we'll move to that.
And the field stuff's completely valuable.
Valid. Yeah.
Like, he's got to be better. He just has to be better. And Tennessee has to be better as a team defensively, and he's been the biggest culprit of that. I mean, it's almost to the point to me, if Gavin Keelan was healthy right now, I'd be DHing him for the time being. But, I mean, obviously that's not really a choice right now because you're not going to be able to you're not taking Keelan's bat out of the lineup with how good he's been.
Yeah, just some last, offense notes before we talk about the defense. I think what you have with Tennessee, you mentioned the top six, and Reese Chapman has been really good. I wanted to say one thing about Andrew Fischer before we move on. I feel like just talking about myself, I haven't been like giving him his flowers enough on this podcast. Like, I think it's just taking it for granted. Like, oh yeah, Andrew Fischer is what he was supposed to be. But this team lacks a little bit of that just dog mentality. Like, it's like that Tennessee has had, just the will to win. But Andrew Fischer certainly does not lack that. So I think he is the epicenter of Tennessee baseball right now offensively. Like, he and Hunter Inslee just have that clutch gene, have that big play capability.
Moment.
Yeah, under the spotlight. Like, just a microcosm of this. And Tennessee didn't even score a run because of it. But Andrew Fischer, who was raking all weekend long, saw the starter for Ole Miss on Friday night really well. But then Morris got the best of him on, I believe, like 6 or 7 pitch AB, struck him out later in the game. And Fischer had been so close on a foul ball, I think. Anyways, it was a frustrating AB for Fischer. And then the next time up, I think it was the 8th inning. I remember telling my roommate who I was watching the game with, I'm like, Fischer's going to get him here. Like, you just knew that because of how the previous AB had gone, that Fischer was going to get him back. Like, second time seeing him, it didn't even matter. Morris was shutting down everybody else, but I had so much confidence that Fischer was going to get on base here, and it was a leadoff double. Like, that is Andrew Fischer, right? So you have to applaud that, and it's really valuable for Tennessee to have a dude like that this year, where it feels like it. Elsewhere it's not really there. Like Dean Curley, I wouldn't remotely have that confidence, but I do with Andrew Fischer.
Yeah, I mean, has 15 home runs, which is obviously super impressive, and I think we kind of like not surprising, I guess I should say. Not surprising that he has 15 home runs at this point in the season.
Yeah.
But it's just how competitive every at-bat is. I mean, you talked about it in the at-bat where Morris got him in the middle of the game on Friday. Still a very long competitive at-bat. He has 39 walks at this point in the season, more than he had last year at Ole Miss. I think he passed his total at Ole Miss in game 1 of the series. Only 20 strikeouts, so he's got almost double the walks that he does strikeouts. He got 8 hit by pitches, so when you a team high 8 hit by pitches. So when you add those up, well over double that he's reaching base. on non-hits than he is striking out. He is only hitting 309, but his on-base percentage is 503. And in conference play, which is really what matters, what are you doing against the best teams? He's hitting 320, 7 home runs, 2 more doubles, and an on-base percentage of 470, which is the best of any full-time starter. Chris Newstrom with 7 at-bats and 7 plate appearances has gotten on 4 times. So he's higher. But of guys that are with a good quantity of plate appearances in SEC play, he has been by far their best guy.
Yep. No doubt about it. All right, let's talk about this defense here. I think that's probably the biggest worry for Tennessee right now as a whole is just how poor the defense has been at times, whether it's the catcher spot having some mistakes. I know Cannon had a couple in the weekend, and of really just the infield more than anything. I do think the outfield has had some really good defense plays this year when you take into account how great Reese has been in right. Jay has delivered some nice throws. Bargo had a nice throw from left, a great throw actually over the weekend. So the infield defense is the big thing here. And, Ariel's a wizard at short, but he can still make mistakes, but I don't think that's a storyline we need to dive into. It's really Curley and what is the best, rotation for Tennessee in this infield. What's the best lineup here? And when Gavin Killen's back, he'll start at second. So that messes with things right now, but I don't think we expect that for this weekend against Kentucky, right? So let's just look at Kentucky in itself. What do you think is the best infield for Tennessee right now? Just given how everybody has played.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would continue to roll with Ariel at short and trust him to get it to be better defensively. I mean, he had 2 errors last weekend, and I think you're right. You can trust him to bounce back, but at the same time, when he's not giving you a whole lot with the bat, he doesn't need to be in the
margin
lineup
for error is slim.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He needs to be a plus, if not a plus defensively. But no, feel like he does that. He deserves the benefit of doubt. So I'd have him at short. I guess I'd probably go Curley at second and Bargo at third. Chris Newstrom would kind of be the X factor. He got in, he was sick over the weekend and didn't play. He got in for, I believe he came. Did he come into pinch run and then just stayed in and got in the bat, or was it a true pinch hit yesterday?
No, pinch run. He ran for someone at second and then hit the homer later in the game.
Yeah, so maybe he would be the X factor there, or you'd throw him in left, and you could maybe, if you wanted to keep Abernathy in, move him to second. I mean, they have so many different options, but just generally speaking, I think it's probably Ariel at shortstop, Bargo at third, and Curley at second.
It feels like you want to put Curley in a spot where he doesn't have to throw a long way. Like, that's the problem. It's not his glove. It's not his fielding. It's his arm. He's errant with his throws so many times. And it's always when he thinks about it. If it's a bang play, I feel confident Curley can get it done. But when he has time, it goes haywire. And I don't know why that is, but that's the problem of it all. It's the throwing. It's not necessarily the glove.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely the throwing. And this is such I don't know, this could be complete nonsense from me. This is a classic never played baseball at a high level question. Because it's almost all skip throws. He short arms him.
Right, and that's what he did last year, but he and Burt got good at it. The little skip to first, yeah.
Well, they were consistent. With it. Now this year, he would just have a lot of long hops last year where you kind of knew what to expect. Would it be harder? And this is completely me asking a question. I'm not saying this because I don't know. I never played first base. Is it harder to judge that quickly on a throw to second if he's still short arming it? Is it going to be harder to where if it's coming from shortstop so deep, you could probably read it pretty quickly or read it?
Okay, yeah. Talking about as the first baseman.
As the first baseman of what this hop is going to be. Is it harder to read it at second base because it's coming from a shorter distance? Maybe it coming from a shorter distance allows him to just throw it higher.
I don't think he would hop throws from second.
I don't think he would try to.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's I mean, a no crap comment, but I don't think he's trying to do what he's doing throwing the ball right now at all.
Well, yeah. And he has. I mean, he has arm strength. We know this.
It is not an arm strength problem at all. He has a massive arm. That is not the issue.
Yeah, it's just accuracy. Like, that's literally it. Like, the errors are just Fischer can't even come close. He doesn't even try.
The one in the first inning on Sunday,
he's turning around.
Insane.
It's like it's to the fence. It's so.
Yeah, the one in the first inning on Sunday was absurd. It wasn't even thrown in the zip code of Fischer. But I mean, just to your point in general, it feels like a mental issue because you're right. When it feels like they're more bang plays, the throws are better. When he doesn't have to think about it and he just has to go, the throws are better. To me, the most telling one from it being a mental issue was the one that wasn't even an error late in the game on Saturday when he pats it in his glove 2 or 3 times and then throws it, and the guy just beat. I mean, it was an accurate throw.
Beat the throw.
Just beat the throw because he took too long. He was clearly in his head about it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Again, to me, it's a mental thing. It's not a physical thing at all. So I don't know. Maybe change of scenery in general at second would be better for him. He didn't have any errors or really any mistakes that I caught on Tuesday night against Bellarmine. So yeah, maybe that mitigates some of those concerns.
Embargo has been good at third. I mean, I can't remember
not a concern.
Any bad plays. I don't remember any just like insane, amazing plays, but yeah, he's been solid. So maybe, we'll see if that happens. Dean certainly started second last night. That was his 3rd start there of the season. But I don't believe he started at second base in an SEC game. So we'll see if that happens against Kentucky. But if that's the infield, Bargo's going to be in the lineup. So that's his spot. Keelan at DH for the time being. The outfield would leave Reese and Ensley, of course, and then left field's the spot that's a little more up in the air with Newstrom back in the fold this weekend. We'll see what happens. He started twice in the Texas A&M series and made the most of those opportunities. Continued to rake Tuesday, as we mentioned, with a homer. But Jay Abernathy's still a solid player, can still do things for Tennessee. I just think it'll be a rotation. Honestly, I don't feel confident either of those guys are going to start every game in a given weekend for right now. Even Ariel, say Ariel starts the first 2 games at short and has no hits on the weekend, Tennessee's probably switching it up on Sunday.
To me,
that's the case right now.
To me, the final 2 spots in the lineup, I think all season, I think it's just going to be a rotation, ride the hot hand.
Well, okay, so we laid out the infield with Keelan at DH. Manny's not an outfielder, so he's kind of the odd man out here. But I think if Ariel continues to struggle or to not blow you away defensively, Manny can play short. You don't want to put Dean there right now. And hey, Manny is a smooth defender still, had some, just frustrating plays at second base. But before that, all season, he had been great at third. And then you saw him start against Bellarmine at short, and he made a couple of nice little plays. So he's a smooth defender, not as good as Ariel, but certainly is, I think, a better option than Curley right now at short.
Completely agree. And I mean, even when Keelan gets back, he was a guy that played shortstop last year and worked all fall and preseason, splitting his time at second and shortstop. So that's the thing that makes all of it hard to project, is there's just so much versatility. Bargo can play in left. He can play in third.
Yeah.
Abernathy can play in left. He can play at second. Newstrom can play in the infield, even though we haven't seen it much, but he can as well as left. Manny can play 3 spots in the infield. Ariel can play 3 spots in the infield. Dean can play 3 spots in the infield. You don't feel great about him at shortstop right now, but in theory he can. So there's tons of options. The 6 guys that are going to be in the lineup every single day at this point. Cannon's going to get 2, maybe even 3 starts in a weekend. But when it comes to those last 2 spots, it's very up in the air, and there's about 5 guys when everybody's healthy, 5 guys that could feasibly start at claim any of those 2 spots in any given weekend game. And there's so much, to the point of there being so much versatility. It's not even like it's just 2 positions. You can shuffle the deck and move things around a lot for those last 2 spots in the lineup.
Yeah, it just feels like all these freshmen are going to rotate. Abernathy, Marin, Newstrom, Clark. Clark will potentially get some outfield nods if he's hot. Homered at Ole Miss. That was huge for him to break out of a 0-for-16 slump. So he's still in the mix. And then when Keelan comes back in the field, it just kind of creates who's going to be in the DH. But yeah, Tennessee probably has 13 guys, I think, right now that you could see getting time against SEC competition. The infield we laid out: Cannon, Reese, let's say like Reese, Inslee, Jay, and then that would leave Newstrom, Manny, Stone, and Levi on the bench. So that would be your 4 to make the 13.
Yeah, that group of 5 I'm talking about, kind of in the fringes, the 4 freshmen in Ariel is how I
That's
see
right.
it.
Yeah, and then Stone is a fringe.
Stone is the other guy at catcher who it's not going to be surprising if he gets a weekend start.
Mm-hmm. All right, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. Tennessee hosting Kentucky. Not as big of a series as a year ago. Kentucky's not as good, but still a solid opponent. Can never take an SEC series for granted, as we saw against Texas A&M. Game 2, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then game 3 will be at 1 p.m. Eastern on Easter Sunday. Ryan, what's a quick prediction for the series?
I'll say Tennessee wins 2 out of 3. I was tempted to go with the sweep on this one, but Kentucky I thought was impressive last weekend at home against Texas. I mean, they only won 1 game, but they were very competitive. In addition, I think they're playing a little bit better. So I'll say 2 out of 3 for the Vols. All on the plus this weekend. So no one of the few series that Tennessee doesn't have any on TV. But it will be interesting to see. It feels like it is always an entertaining series when Tennessee plays Kentucky for one reason or another.
Given the way Kentucky plays, they're a little bit more of a challenging matchup for Tennessee, right? Like, I think Kentucky plays Tennessee better than they would most, just because of Tennessee struggles with small ball and stuff defending that. Who do you think Tennessee's more likely to sweep right now if you had to put money on it, Kentucky or Vanderbilt?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I think it's Vanderbilt.
I'd probably side with Vanderbilt too.
Yeah, they just always. I mean, last couple of years they've dominated them, right? Especially in Knoxville. So
yeah, in 23, they swept them when they turned the season around. So, yeah, I guess last year was the first year Tennessee had lost to Vanderbilt since
21
when they lost. They did lose the series in 21. So yeah, no, I think to me it's relatively similar, but I think I would agree with you. I'd side that Vanderbilt's the more likely one.
Yeah, 8-1 in the last 3 regular seasons. Beat them in Hoover in 22. Lost to them in Hoover. Split them last year.
With them in Hoover last year. Yeah.
So yeah, 9-1, 10-2. Yeah, like 10-2 last 3 years, I think. So yeah. All right. That'll wrap it up for this long edition of the Racked Up Insider Diamond Pass podcast. Covered a lot of ground here now that Tennessee is halfway through SEC play. You want to follow Ryan? He's at rshump00 on X. I'm at Jack Foster Media. And of course, follow Racked Up Insider at Racked Up Insider. And stay up to date with all of our Tennessee baseball coverage on rackedupinsider.com, including live at-bat by at-bat update threads for every single game. Can't watch. It's the best thing you can follow to stay up to date with all things Tennessee baseball. For Ryan, I'm Jack. We'll see you next time on the Racked Up Insider Diamond Pass.